Qualifying about to get underway for the Macau Grand Prix FIA FR World Cup, and this is going to be a session that really does count. The cars lined up in pit lane. It's a humid day, 91% humidity. It's a warm day, air temperature 26 degrees and track temperature 31 degrees. However, it is a dry day because this afternoon the track has dried and dried and dried. And David Addison, this is the first time the single-seaters will be on circuit on a dry track.
Which justifies a hooray with a capital hooray, doesn't it? Because they have waited long time for this. And we have waited also to see what an FR car can do around here, because this is the Macau debut of the Tatius FR chassis in the dry. We want to see what they can do. This is the session. Although the regulations say you take your better time out of the two qualifying sessions, yesterday's was wet and 5 red flags. Now it's dry. This is the one that's going to count for the grid for tomorrow's qualifying race.
And they cannot wait to go.
No.
The beautiful choreography, as soon as the green flag was shown down in pit lane, the green light at the end of pit lane to leave pit lane, they wanted to get out. They've seen what's happened today in just about every qualifying session we've had. The early laps really do count. And look, for the first time this weekend, we see labels on tyres. Yep. Brand new slick tyres.
They have 4 sets of Pirelli slicks, and they've gone through 3 sessions without needing to touch them. And so sticker tyres, brilliant feeling for the driver, absolutely brand new set of tyres. They'll be having to scrub those in as much as anything. We can go on board with Dino Beganovic here to have a look at where there may be a damp patch or two, but it might not be sunny, but I promise you the track now is in a better state than it has been for the weekend. We've had 2 days of running. This is the final car activity of day 2, and it's the driest it has been all weekend thus far. Through Mandarin you go, and this is the long run down towards Lisboa. Key part of the lap this for overtaking, but then you've got to get it right and look for the gap in the barriers, which is the right-hander of Lisboa itself. This is the out lap. Ignore it to a degree, other than people maybe jockeying for track position, but it's the next lap where we're going to start to see the times. Oliver Goethe, Tuukka Taponen and Valerio Rinicella yesterday did a lap in the damp before a red flag and before the rain. Nobody else came close, but those times yesterday, the best being a 2 minutes 32, should be eclipsed by what we have now on a dry track. The only imponderable is, can people keep it out of the barriers? And they need to.
Over 40 minutes we have here for many of the drivers that you see. The first time ever they've done a dry lap around the gear circuit, and they are straight into qualify. Take the clock back 24 hours. We were saying yesterday, these times may count for nothing, and now we know they will count for nothing. Yep. Because we have a dry circuit. It's not going to take long to get down to the kind of pace that we were seeing yesterday. But as they make their way around the circuit on the out lap, they're going to be trying to get as much heat into the tyres. There are still little damp patches, you know.
There are. What they'll also be doing on this part of the circuit is trying to get track position, clear track space. On the way to Lisboa, a tow is a good thing. Everywhere else, you don't want a car around you, because all it's going to do is get in the way. Now, there are, in the majority of cases, 2 or sometimes 3 to a team, but don't think they're going to work together, because it is every man for himself. And Oliver Goethe, number 1 for MP Motorsport, the Dutch team, is the first one across the line. He pulls the trigger. He's the first man onto a flying lap in this session.
Here we go then, qualifying in the dry on the gear circuit here at Macau gets underway. Oliver Goethe topped the times yesterday when the circuit was wet. The timing was perfect to get that lap in nice and early. This lap is going to be important as well. You never know what's going to happen around the gear circuit. So getting a lap in now, putting 1 in the bank now, is worth its weight in gold.
From 255 kilometers an hour, 6th gear, to 2nd gear, 87 km/h through Lisboa. Speed building now on the climb up San Francisco Hill, at the top of which you get to about 220 kilometers an hour. Then you've got to slow the car down, because it goes left and right all the way through Teddy Yip Corner, through Maternity, on towards the Solitude S's, and then down towards Police and Moorish, the other way down through Faraway Hill. And then the road will climb back up towards Donna Maria. This is the part of the circuit where it's narrow. This is the part of the circuit where overtaking is well nigh impossible, but it is absolutely essential to keep it off the barriers on one side or the concrete on the other or the stone wall, whatever challenge Macau throws at you. And that's Goethe, and that's drama, because off the road at Lisboa has gone Théophile Nael. He's got going, so the road is clear. Much mopping of brows all up and down the pit lane. We are opposite the pits, and we can always hear a collective groan when something like that is shown, and that is Renato Lee. Now he's going to try and execute a three-point turn, keep everything crossed. We have Goethe, in fact most people clear of Lisboa, so they are ahead of the yellow flag zone as it were, but they want to get a lap time in. They do not want to see a red, and we've got green lights, green flags indicated on the timing screen.
So Oliver Goethe is the one that's going to be giving us the target time. He's at the front of the field. We've got a clear course now, which is good news. He got going, so we now have a purple sector 4 for Oliver Goethe. We are going to get a lap in the book for Oliver Goethe coming up towards the completion of the opening lap here in qualifying. And here we go, Oliver Goethe, the final sector about to be completed.
9th in the Grand Prix last year, and remember, he topped the times anyway after yesterday on a 2 minutes 32, but this lap, as he breaks the beam, is going to be a 2:23.2, and the next car to look for is this one, a Ferrari Driver Academy member, Tuukka Taponen. The Finn goes second on a 2:23.7. You've got to say, Goethe's experience from last year is standing him in good stead, but Ugo Ugochukwu now goes quickest. He did the F4 race last year, and Mariboya goes up to the top now, 2:22.3 ahead of Ugochukwu. Goethe third, Noel Leon fourth, not for long, Cooper Webster up to fourth.
Yeah, Mariboya was putting in purple sectors throughout that lap, so a really good opening lap. They are significantly putting a lap in the bank in this qualifying session, and that is significant.
Evan Giltaire goes second, James Wharton, the Australian, goes third. And this is what we were longing to see all weekend, not only the cars in the dry, but circulating, getting laps in, getting a rhythm without people throwing them at the scenery. Dino Beganovic then, fastest of all, 2:22.199. He drove in the Grand Prix last year, crashed out early at Lisboa. Alex Dunne was the first one to go, and then Beganovic fell into the same trap, didn't he? Trying to get up the inside and just running too quick into the corner and into the barriers a lap later. So Beganovic, fastest. He knows what's required around here.
Freddie Slater has put in an overall best first sector. After the first flying lap, he finished up 12th quickest, did number 31, Freddie Slater. He's just put in purple in sector 1.
Drove here last year in the F4 race. The Grand Prix this year, again, just to make the point for these Tatu's F3T 318 chassis, the Renault engines in the cars, the FR from Formula Regional. And if you think, well, you know, how good are they? Well, they're capable of 255 kilometers an hour as a top speed. They'll get from 0 to 100 km/h in just over 3 seconds. They're serious bits of kit. Should you care, 38 gear changes to a lap as you go up and down the box. And Freddie Slater, having done an absolute best in sector 1, did it again in sector 2, but Alex Dunne has then snaffled that away from him. And Dunne was 5th at the end of his first push lap. This is Goethe up to the end of his second.
He's gone purple in sector 3, he's gone purple in sector 4. He's about to complete his second lap, and you can expect he's going to go top of the times at the end of this one and up towards the timing line. Oh no!
That is a blocked track, that is wreckage everywhere, that is a red flag. And in the middle of it is 32, Alex Dunne, nearest to us. The one in the middle I'll worry about in a minute, and 30, which is Dino Beganovic, is there as well. So Beganovic, who is the fastest driver in the times at the moment, is going nowhere. He's got a damaged car as well, and he is furious, and so is Alex Dunne. And the one that's facing the wrong way in the middle, I'm trying to work out, but massive frustration, and that's, I think I'm right in saying, between Moorish and Police. Alex Dunne out of the car. This is going to be a long stoppage, isn't it, to get 3 cars out of the way and get all the debris. Cars can cut engines at turn 15 because those that are behind the track blockage are going to be there for a while.
It's going to take a little while, isn't it? And already with drivers vacating the cockpits of cars, yep, it's going to be down to the track workers to clear up what is a very unfortunate mess.
Alex Dunne okay, Dino Beganovic okay. Drivers clambering over the barriers. And I think the other one is one of the TGM Grand Prix entries. So it is either Soto Ogawa or Rintaro Sato that we have lost. And it's 55, it's Sato's car, isn't it? Rintaro Sato, yes, we found the end to the wing. So Rintaro Sato's car is the other one that's involved. Right, we need to piece this together and work out who did what to which and to whom. Very swift work from the track workers there to get Beganovic's car off the road. And let's see. So it's Sato sideways, bang, into the barriers, and ends up in the middle of the road. Here comes Dunne, bang, and here comes Beganovic, big bang. Wow. Beganovic's view, it's all kicked off ahead of him, and he's got nowhere to go. Kaboom. And Dino Beganovic, remember, currently pole position, and that's his session done. What a mess. Track blockage, 3 very badly damaged cars, and Rintaro Sato's car took, what, 3 impacts? 1 with the wall, 1 with Dunne, and a further big hit from Beganovic.
There is a lot of work to do to those cars to get the race ready, and the good news is that everybody seemed to be getting out of the cars. Yeah, there are a few cars that are in the queue to get back to pit lane, many of them already down here in pit lane.
Yeah, those that were ahead of that battle pack, of course, have been able to come to the pits, and driver coaches talking to the drivers, looking at Ugo Ugochukwu in the car. He's studying the live timing and possibly also the live stream to look at the replay. Why have we stopped?
Replay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, already the road is clear to let the traffic through. Great work by the marshals, you've got to say. Quickly hoiking the cars to a safer place.
Well, they're just so well versed in doing what you do at Macau. You see, as soon as they got on, they were picking up bits of bodywork and getting it to a place of safety on the other side of the barrier. They just are incredibly efficient at getting racing back underway. So, Beganovic, top time, 2:22.199.
But it shows also the lottery-like nature of Macau, doesn't it? One lap you're a hero because you've gone fastest, and the next you're piling into a parked car that you are completely unsighted of.
Speaking of piling in, how many people have come here on day 2 of the Macau Grand Prix for the 71st running to fill the grandstands? It is not just a sporting event, it is an event every year here at Macau. You don't necessarily have to love motor racing or motorsport, but being here at Macau, feeling the atmosphere, and look how quickly we've been able to get that mess cleared up, and cars being wheeled into a place of safety. How many marshals are working down there? Probably 20 of them, all hoping to get the circuit nice and clear as quickly as possible. And another look at what happened. Bang! And this is the start of a chain reaction.
I mean, Alex Dunne does his best to go for a gap, and Beganovic was even wider and just ploughs into the side. Here it is from the other angle. So wait, look in the background. Sintaro sideways into the barrier. The car's already wrecked. Dunne loses 2 wheels, and Beganovic, who's on a charging lap, because bear in mind, Beganovic has just done an absolute best in the previous sector, and suddenly he's got nowhere to go. That's a big hit. Shows the strength of the Tacho chassis.
It really does show the strength, doesn't it? The front end of those cars, very, very impressive.
So the drivers now return to the pit lane, and we await news for the resumption of the session. So we'd had 7.5 minutes, and we were getting so cocky, weren't we, about seeing cars go round and round. We then were tripped up by this.
Well, let me give you the
accident.
positive. By this point yesterday, we'd had 2 red flags. In the first 10 minutes, we had 2 red flags.
Thanks, do come again, won't you?
These are the positives that we enjoy here.
Righto.
And the other positive is that we have a dry track.
Yeah.
So for the first time, we're able to see what these cars can really do around the gear circuit here at Macau.
Well, they're 10 seconds quicker already than they were in the damp yesterday. They're not going to be as fast as an FIA F3 car, but it doesn't really matter because everyone has the same chassis. And the other great thing about FR being the category, Formula Regional, for the Macau Grand Prix, is that you are doing what the F3 category used to be able to do, and that's bring people from Europe, from Asia, from Japan, from the Middle East, you know, all these different regions together in comparable machinery for a proper end-of-season shootout.
I know when we were getting the news earlier on in the year about what cars were going to be racing for the 71st Macau Grand Prix, both you and I had the same idea. It's going to be great, isn't it? Because you get this international, this becomes the focus of this form of racing from around the globe. And it's just what the Macau Grand Prix has always been about. Superb.
And you've got people stepping sideways who don't normally race in Formula Regional to come and have a go in the FR World Cup, the FIA FR World Cup. You've got people stepping up to these cars for the first time, and you've got a rather nervous father in Takuma Sato there who's seen what's happened to his boy. It makes me feel very old when I'm talking about Takuma Sato's son racing. It doesn't seem 5 minutes that he came to race in the British Formula 3 Championship, and when you and I used to encounter him on the podium, initially it will be no English, no English, pat you aside.
So you would go to present the trophy and then do the interview afterwards, and he would just bow. So you would say, so Takuma, very happy, whatever. He was just about. That was all.
Didn't make great radio,
all we got.
It?
No, it didn't. No.
But boy, did he make something of a career. And Rintaro Sato, sadly, we're not going to see again in this session with that very, very badly broken car. But the road is almost clear, and we are therefore awaiting news for the resumption. And now we also need to see where Dino Beganovic falls to, don't we?
We certainly do, yeah. Dino put in a time of 2:22.199. Now the frustration of watching the remaining 32 minutes of this session play out around the streets of Macau. Well, let's see what's going to happen. The expectant crowd, and what a crowd we've got here at Macau for qualifying day. For the remaining 2 days of this meeting, we'll be watching racing, qualification race tomorrow, and on Sunday, of course, the Grand Prix, the final race of the 71st Macau Grand Prix.
Which began as a sports car race, and it's evolved through Formula Atlantic, Formula 3, for a time Formula 4, and now the FR chassis. There from the KCMG IXO by Pinnacle Motorsport team, Noel Leon and Mario Boyer. So some teams with 2, some teams with 3 cars. That's Jin Nakamura from the Tom's Formula team. And another car there being pushed up the hill. Is that Kanato Lee? Did I see that car? Which doesn't look like it wants to get going, but it looked like Kanato Lee's livery, that to me. Last few bits being picked up off the ground. And by the look of it, one of the FIA's technical team is there in the white shirt, trying to oversee that car getting going again. So this is the last car that we need to get back to the pits. Only then can a restart time be confirmed. But we think it is at number 18, Kanato Lee, that's the one that's stranded.
So we're having the indication, I think, that we've got a lift required on that car, and as we've got plenty of officials down here, I think the indication from the marshals down there is that we do need a lift for that car.
Yeah, Kanato wants to try to get it back to the pits, but I think they're just going to put it behind the barrier because it's going to save time, and that's his session done. Yeah. So there's big disappointment for quite a few drivers here. So 32 rather minutes still to go for this FIA FR World Cup, the Macau Grand Prix. And very shortly, engines will fire back up once more.
It's just that horrible, horrible feeling, isn't it? When you come around a corner, you've got absolutely nowhere to go. That is precisely what we just saw. We have 32.5 minutes of Q2, essentially our qualifying session, because normally it would be a combined qualifying session from yesterday and today, but with the wet track conditions yesterday and the dry today, this is going to be what forms the grid for tomorrow's qualification race. It will be the final on-track action tomorrow, 10 laps at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. Information that slippery track at turn 15 following that incident, not surprisingly.
Not great news for motorbikes.
It's what, today? So it's just coming up to 4 o'clock. We've yet to have motorcycles on track. They need to be on track with a dry circuit, and they haven't had it this morning. They didn't have it yesterday morning, so they're due to be on track for their first free practice at the end of this session. And with a bit of a delay, now Antonelli's car can be removed. Another look at Alex Dunne slithering through there.
Fair play to Dunne, his reflexes were good. You saw him steer right as best he could. So even though he came across that car mid-accident, he still had the presence of mind to go for a gap, whereas Beganovic was even quicker into the corner, and because of that ran wide and had absolutely nowhere to go. But credit to Alex Dunne, he did try and go for that gap. I think I'd already said that Beganovic had gone purple in the previous sector, but you know, the commitment was there. But Alex Dunne was absolutely on the money to try and steer out of that. And Beganovic, likewise. That's why Beganovic was so unimpressed with the whole situation, because he knew he was on for a good time there. Still, the survivors are ready to go, and we'll get things back underway very shortly. So we will be without Dunne, who is 5th, without Beganovic, who is currently the fastest, and obviously without Rintaro Salto. But the really bad news for Prema is that's 2/3 of the team wiped out in that incident.
It is, yeah, and that was a very costly incident at the start of our qualifying session. Soon, hopefully, we can get things back underway, and if everything runs according to plan, then yeah, we've got a session restarted in about a minute and a half. Yeah. So local time, just gone 4 o'clock. We get things back underway. Local time, 3 minutes past 4. And I've just noticed as well that the parasols have gone up once again. I hope that's not for drizzle or rain. I hope it's for the heat and the sunshine, which has been trying to break through, has done a couple of times this afternoon here at Macau, giving us a more usual look at the gear circuit, with sunshine being fairly non-existent over the course of yesterday, today, and on Wednesday as well. So I think we can get things back underway very, very soon. About 40 seconds away from getting a green light shown at the end of pit lane, and we'll have to go through the whole process of getting the tyres back up to temperature, getting everything up to running temperature once again. So any moment now we'll get the green light in pit lane.
Drivers, incidentally, have all come back to the paddock. They've been brought back by the race control fleet of cars, and we're going to talk to their teams and explain the situation, what they came across. But I think the teams will have seen all the replays. They'll be aware that there was very little that Alex Dunne and Dino Beganovic could have done to avoid that.
Here we go. Green flag, green lights in pit lane, and everybody will funnel out of their berths in front of the garages to get back out on circuit. And it's like a gift to a driver, isn't it? The indication to get out on track, and it's the parts of the process that the drivers like the most. All the noise, everything around them, it's just them and the machine. The noise around them is gone. It's like the build-up to the big race as well. It's probably the biggest build-up that they will have ever had to a race when we get to the Grand Prix on Sunday, because there's the photographs, the ceremony, all of everything that is the Macau Grand Prix, the colour, the presentation, everything about it. And once they get on track and it's just them and the car getting on with the job that they can do, that's the bit they love.
Through Lisboa they turn. Drivers on this outlap, but again conscious that they will need to push. And what's going to be intriguing is to see ultimately what our top time is relative to where we are now. We know what the benchmark is. It's Dino Beganovic's 2:22.199. But from here on in, how far down the order is he going to drop?
Significant names not involved in this restart as a result of that incident. Beganovic and Dunne who again is not having the greatest of luck here at Macau. Last year it was during the Grand Prix itself. Today it's during qualifying. But one of the things about Macau, because we have a qualification race, there is opportunity to make places up during the qualification race, and therefore start with a better opportunity in the Grand Prix itself on Sunday.
One other thing just to tidy up, as it were, Noel Leon is another driver that's had an engine change over the course of the weekend thus far. So a fresh engine has gone into number 7. Noel Leon's car going into qualifying, the KCMG entered car. And there is one still sat at the pit lane, which I think is from the PHM Racing stable, which runs Rashid Al-Daheri, Matteo De Paolo, or Lu Rei Chi, who had a red flag incident yesterday in the first qualifying session. This is Tuukka Taponen trying to buy himself the track space and get the warmth into the tyres. This is the FR Middle East champion. He won that at the start of the season. That's the sort of winter series, if you like, that is in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. But Taponen now accelerates over the timing line onto a flying lap.
And I reckon we can expect good things in this qualifying session from Taponen. He's been impressive so far, hasn't he, around the streets of Macau. Very confident the way he has attacked each and every lap, in the wet and the dry as well. It's quite a delight to watch, to be at the wheel of the car as well. 247
kilometres an hour through Mandarin, 6th gear, speed building, still in 6th, foot nailed to the floor. 255 kilometres an hour, and then there's a right-hander coming up somewhere. There it is. Aim for the gap in the barrier, down to 2nd gear, 87 kmh. A little bit of a lift up through San Francisco, and now San Francisco Hill, up through the gears. And at the summit of this, you've got up to 220 kmh, and then just look left and look right. There are barriers, there are stone walls, there's concrete, there's no runoff, there's a bit of an escape road there coming through Teddy to Maternity. But this terribly narrow part of the circuit demands absolute commitment, and that is what is required right now from Taponen. Barrier on the left, concrete on the right, just skins up against that concrete wall on the right-hand side. Bumpy part of the racetrack as well, fights the car all the way now through Faraway Hill, heading on towards the part of the racetrack where we've just had that red flag, as he drops now down towards Police and then towards Moorish. On the brakes, down through the gears, 2nd gear. Oh, into the wall goes Taponen. That'll be another red flag because he's littered the circuit. And Tuukka Taponen, too much speed down towards Police. And the red flag is shown straight away. You were on board as it happened. And Tuukka Taponen, who looked as though he had that lap under absolutely perfect control, has drilled the barriers. He's triggered red flag number 2. And one of the drivers that came here as a potential winner of the Macau Grand Prix is 11th in the times at the moment, and he's going to tumble when we go green once more. And you were on board when it happened. And it shows just how quickly it bites, doesn't it? Absolutely incredible to be on board as that happened around Moorish, around the right-hander, just before the left-hander at Donna Maria. And what a shame. What a shame. How disappointing. We were on board. That was quite a ride, wasn't it? You had the whole journey, didn't you? Goodness. But it's in a split second. Yeah. Bang. Ended. You didn't see it coming, did you? No. Suddenly, we're offline, we're in the wall. And Tuukka Taponen gets out of the car, strides away. So let's have another look at it. On board. So we've headed through the Solitude S's and
Faraway Hill.
Yeah. Heading down towards Police. Bumpy part of the circuit. You can see the work having to be put into the car, but it's this next right-hander coming up, okay? Here you go. What a noise, what a feeling. Back goes in first, doesn't it? Crunch, that brings the front of the car around. And thankfully, he didn't get collected. Wow. So we are, how many minutes into this session? 12 minutes into Q2. And we have had 2 red flags. Alex Dunne down in pit lane, watching on. And this might take quite a long time, mightn't it? Can I offer you a little hint of bad news? Go on. It's all our onboard cameras wiped out now for this session. because they've all gone off at the same corner.
Oh, wow.
So it might not be quite as spectacular, the next part, but that was great viewing on board, wasn't it? It's a shame the result was what it was, rather than a really good lap time.
Okay, well, can I offer you some optimism?
Yes, please.
Because the cameras were well used.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
well used.
Yeah, probably gone viral already, those incidents. So it is still Dino Beganovic the fastest, because nobody has been able to go and do a lap time yet. There's the broken car of Tuukka Taponen being lifted away. And there is our unofficial drone camera as the car hovers over the circuit.
Making the most of every shot now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Have a look into that ladies' balcony, look on the 19th floor.
Yes, maybe we should pixelate that out.
Quite, yes. They're what size? Right, so Tuukka Taponen's car ready to drop onto the back of the either recovery vehicle or just put behind the barrier out of harm's way. This is wheelie bin watch now. Yeah, don't put it in the bin. It's not that broken.
No, and that car had been going so very, very well. We made the point.
They literally have put the car out with the trash, haven't they?
Yes.
They've just dumped it next to the wheelie bins.
So terribly disrespectful.
It is, rather. It is. Yeah.
Right.
Back to the plot. So drivers seeing their grid positions now being affected by everybody else, really, in these incidents. Number 2 there, which is Valerio Rinicella, getting ready to go. But we still have, even though the car is very crumpled, Dino Beganovic's Prema Racing entry on provisional pole position right now.
28 minutes, so that's a meaningful amount of time that we have. Notification again that we have a slippery tack down at turn 15. Boy, does Macau bite when it bites, and we experience that with the driver. Let's have another look at this. Riding on board with Taponen, and we felt every little moment of every nuance of the gear circuit, including that horrible, horrible moment where it's all over. You're done.
Yeah.
That's it. Qualifying's done.
And again, it's just that fraction too much speed. The back just out of line. It was sort of lost on the way in, wasn't it? The back was out of step as it came into the view on that high camera there. But it shows you just a fraction too much pace, too much speed carried into the corner, and there's the outcome. 1
minute away from getting this session back underway. And
okay.
We have had, in 12 minutes of this session, 2 stoppages.
And we don't want any more. Put your pencil down, because I think it's you holding that, tallying these up, that triggers them. Put it away. Now, Alan, yes, over to you for helmet spotting now, please, and the characters involved.
Interesting. If only there was a Shazam for graphics, because I don't know.
Are they teddy bears?
Yeah, well, they are, but I think a specific character. Leave it with me.
Okay, okay.
You get on with your session.
All right. You get on with your characters for cartoons. We all play to our strengths, you know. So the green lights are ready at the far end of the pit lane, and we are ready to go any second now, as we are in business.
Green flag is shown, and the cars once again line up. We've got a few of the cars leaving with brand new slick tyres, and the labels are the clue to that as they make their way down pit lane.
That's optimistic, isn't it, that you're not going to squander them?
It is a bit, yeah.
Partly because of people having incidents, and partly because you know there's some speedy dry still down and maybe a bit of debris. But the teams have reckoned it's worth the gamble. Out they go. The PHM team, again, lagging back a little bit to try and get clear track space, and also their Théophile Nael for Saint-Aloc, normally known as a GT team, the French squad, Sébastien Chatai's team, but just lagging back a little bit before releasing the driver. So they're not running in traffic all the time. As I say, this part of the circuit, a tow is a good thing to have, but elsewhere you just get caught up, and you can see people there, even on an outlet, being heroes and trying to get track position.
These are hungry young drivers. They're on the staircase to, hopefully, Formula One, to IndyCar, but a career in single-seater motorsport. And they know that this is the biggest stage that they could possibly perform on for this point in their career. So they're eager to impress. They are eager to etch their name into the history books of the Macau gear circuit, and so many drivers that have done, that have conquered the streets of Macau, have gone on to be extremely famous drivers in the world of motorsport. They all want to be there, and with good reason.
And there's also the extra kudos of being the FIA FR World Cup winner, and especially in its inaugural year, because as we've been saying, this is the debut at Macau for this FR Tatius-built Renault engine chassis. So, track clear, this the outlap. People, dare I say, being a little bit more circumspect here. There's not quite as much energetic pushing before a flying lap as we saw at the very start.
It would be nice, and we said this yesterday when it was wet, if they could just get some laps to hook together, one after another, just to get into some kind of a flow around the circuit, because all the interruptions that you get, you could maybe pick out a reasonably quick lap, but it's once you start piecing together lap after lap after lap, you can get into a flow, and the whole session begins to come alive.
It does. And on this part of the circuit where it's nice and wide, you can see the drivers weaving left and right, generating the warmth of the Pirelli tyres, getting the pressures back up as well, because when they come out of this corner now, they are bent, they release the trigger, don't they, and fire the car over the line onto a flying lap. And so you're looking there at number 7 of Noel, the Mexican driver, and he accelerates down towards Reservoir through that left-hander, down towards Mandarin, the right hand. Well, it's a kind of kick, but it's still a hugely committed corner, isn't it? And then the straight down towards Lisboa. Speed building all the time through this part of the circuit. We had a big GT accident earlier on in the day there. Road clear, and then down they head towards the braking zone for Lisboa. You see how they move to the right-hand side to avoid some of the bumps. They get back over to the left and try and give themselves as much room for the corner as they can.
And that's the classic overtaking place here at Macau, particularly in the single-seaters. We've seen some epic battles, 2 abreast, 3 abreast on the run down towards that right-hander, and always an exciting part of the circuit.
And you'll see it in these cars, because in the early laps when they're together, the tow will mean that it's absolutely essential to exploit that and try and do the overtaking. So you've got the Evans GP entry going through. Tiago Rodrigues is one of the drivers, Cooper Webster the other, and Kai Darianani the third. That, though, is Noel. So FR's fastest palindrome is 9th at the moment, as we await to see if we're going to improve lap times come the end of this.
This is a flying lap for Noel, and we followed it right the way around to that tricky area, and that's good news. We've seen it through. I know, we all take a deep breath, don't we now?
I mean, traditionally it's been Lisboa where you expect the incident, but in these cars, it's really been Moorish that has been the corner, hasn't it? We had so many there yesterday. I mean, yes, Lisboa had its own dramas, but they've all been piling in today at Moorish, that right-hander, that tight right. Goethe has done an absolute best in the sector, and so has Noel as he comes now towards Melko Hairpin, and Evan Giltaire is doing personal bests.
Good lap to have followed for Noel Leon, because not just one purple sector, but 2 now, as sector 4 has been completed. So good pick this. Noel Leon is going to move up the times at the end of this lap. By how much, we are about to find out, because currently in 9th position, the number 7 car comes around the final turn, about to cut the timing beam, and where will he finish up? Goes top, a 2:21.90.
Oliver Goethe had gone quickest, but Noel Leon tops the time. Cooper Webster goes 3rd. Now, just to put all this in context, what Alan has said about Noel Leon's time is spot on. 2 minutes 20.1. Dino Beganovic, who was quickest, 2:22. So already we're 2 seconds quicker than we were earlier on, and that means that Beganovic is going to drop like a stone as far as the order is concerned, and Alex Dunne was behind him anyway, and neither of them can respond.
Freddie Slater goes 2nd, so a great lap there for Freddie Slater, 2:20.286, and now we get meaningful times coming over. Oliver Goethe, 2:20, Freddie Slater, 2:20, and so too for Noel Leon, just 1/10 of a second between them.
And Cooper Webster then, who is an Oracle esports Red Bull driver, he's 4th quickest. Make that 5th, because Rashid Al-Ahari now goes 4th fastest for the PHM team, and Jin Nakamura is up into the top 6, the quick Japanese driver. Beganovic then is down to 7th, and Alex Dunne is down to 12th. Ugo Ugochukwu is 14th, flattering to deceive a little bit, as towards us comes Oliver Goethe. Personal, and absolute best in the 3 sectors done so far. Number 14 there goes through, and up to 3rd, Théophile Nael goes through, 2 minutes 20.323.
And this is exactly what we were talking about getting into a groove, getting into a flow for the session. Let's hope this can continue for a good few more laps, because we are seeing some significant sectors being put in. Nael with those 2 purple sectors. Freddie Slater second with 1 purple sector thus far on the lap they're on. Freddie Slater currently in 2nd place. Noel Leon topping the times with a 2:21.90, only with a couple of personal best sectors at the start of this lap. Oliver Goethe with a purple in sector 3, about to complete the lap.
He's been a winner in Formula 3, he's raced in Formula 2, and he goes across the line and goes quickest, 2:19.735 then, so the lap took a while to be confirmed, but it's there, 2 minutes 19.735 for Oliver Goethe, and Noel Leon is on his way to the timing line as we look there at Cooper Webster, number 37, who's down to 6th. He lost out in the 1st sector of the lap, but he's been quick since. Leon 2nd, but nearly half a second back from Goethe, and we've got Freddie Slater on his way to the timing line as well. Webster didn't improve. Ugochukwu up to 2nd. Ugo Ugochukwu now 2 minutes 20.070. One car with a rain light on though, which I think is Webster's car. The red light flashing at the rear of the car as you look at Ugo Ugochukwu, 2nd in the times. And Freddie Slater, bizarre lap, 1 absolute best, but 3 slower sectors around it.
That was a peculiar lap, wasn't it? Yeah, overall best in sector 2. We've got a car off. It's the number 20 car. It's Nakamura's car, and it's got a wheel deranged. It's a wheel off at the front of the car, hard up against the barrier. That is not good news.
Red flag shown, number 3. So Jin Nakamura, who was 10th, is off the road at the end of the lap, isn't it?
Final corner.
It is. It's our bend. Yes, he's just understeered off into the belting. And so Jin Nakamura's car, again, hopefully it won't take much retrieval. But he didn't get to the end of the lap, and others now go for the pit lane. So Jin Nakamura, yeah, he's already hit the barrier before he gets there. But an odd place to have an accident, because look, the rear's damaged already as well. The rear left corner is broken.
It's yeah, an unusual sight that we see, a car just off just before the completion of the lap. And I was just looking at the previous sectors on Nakamura's lap, whether it was a significantly quick one. It wasn't really, was it?
No. I wonder whether there was contact with anybody. But you don't just understeer off. You might do further round the corner, but not there, because that's really on the way in.
Yeah.
So that's an odd one, that.
Yeah, peculiar. And we have our 3rd red flag of this session. Under 20 minutes remain in this qualifying session. So we are just into the 2nd half now of qualifying.
So Oliver Goethe, the fastest, 2 minutes 19.735 is the top time. 0.3 of a second quicker than Ugo Ugochukwu, and Noel Leon 3rd now. And there's the reason for this 3rd red flag. Jin Nakamura's car to be removed. The rest head to the pit lane. And the frustration palpable for those drivers that just can't get the brakes. It's not them that's going off, but they just can't piece together a lap because of other people getting it wrong. But such is life at Macau. Teams setting to work, making adjustments there to Evan Giltaire's car. Evan Giltaire, the ART Grand Prix driver. And with this being a qualifying session, of course, the clock stops rather than ticking on down. So the drivers get the track time required. Oliver Goethe, who is the current fastest driver, has just pitted, of course, and has been sent to the scrutineering patch. So it'll be a minute or 2 before he is actually released to the team. That is the car of Valerio Rinicella, who is 13th in the times at the minute.
only 17 years old is Rinicella. We are into the second half of this qualifying session once we get things back underway. Oliver Goethe, Ugo Ugochukwu, Noel Leon, Freddie Slater, and Théophile Nael is the top 5, with Cooper Webster completing the top 6. Ugo Ugochukwu is one of the rare drivers in single-seaters who is incredibly tall, part of the McLaren Driver Development Programme, and has been for a number of years. And Ugo, who a couple of years ago was competing very successfully in the British F4 Championship, came 3rd in the championship in 2022. But the reason I mention his height, he is a very tall, slim driver, and it's really quite rare that you have a very tall driver. I think the extinguisher has gone off in Oliver Goethe's car, so you can see the white foam, and you saw a little bit of what I thought might have been steam coming out of the car, but he's immediately been indicated to get out of the car, and the team working to get the seat out of the car. That's an unusual one, isn't it?
Yeah. And of course, they're going to have to put a new extinguisher in that, because he won't be allowed back out without a fire extinguisher, without a full working fire extinguisher.
And that is the car that currently sits on provisional pole.
Yes, being on provisional pole has not been a great thing. Look what he did to Dino Beganovic,
yes,
and now Oliver Goethe in trouble as well.
Yeah.
So Ugo Ugochukwu, second fastest. There is his car from the RHGP squad. Ugochukwu staying in the car. He was here last year for F4, wasn't he? So he has some circuit knowledge. Although for FR, Formula Regional purposes, he raced in the European Championship to be 11th in the series.
15th was Ugo Ugochukwu, his first outing here at Macau. And I have a very distinct memory conducting a podium in British F4 at Brands Hatch at the end of his British F4 year, of Zach Brown in front of the podium taking a video of the podium presentation. So Zach Brown becomes a videographer, and very proud he was as well. Yeah,
because Ugo Ugochukwu, part of that McLaren Driver Development Programme, 11th in the Formula Regional European Championship, FRECA as it's badged this year. So there in the white shirt, you've got a glimpse of Robert Mass, the technical delegate from the FIA, who wants to make sure that when that car has gone back out, it's with the right fire extinguisher, it's a full fire extinguisher, it's secured properly. And he'll also want to know from the team, I suspect, why it went off in the first place.
Why it happened, yeah, absolutely.
That's the new one ready to go, primed, ready to drop in place.
And you can see in the background Oliver Goethe being wiped down, and he's going to be damp and sticky when he gets back into the car. It's not going to be very comfortable, is it?
Pretty cold as well.
Yeah, not very nice at all.
There is the broken car of Jin Nakamura being craned out of the way. So the road is almost clear. Seat having to be cleaned as well for Oliver Goethe. So this is an issue that they did not want, and isn't it a good job that we've got a bit of time on their side with this red flag?
And could not have really predicted. That's a very unusual one, isn't it? Very rare. So as we get the circuit clear, it's going to be reasonably quickly. I think we can probably get this back underway. Wasn't a huge amount to clear up, was there, on track?
No.
So the seconds are ticking away. It is local time, just coming up to 4:30 in the afternoon. Those of you that are awaiting the next on-track action, the first time that we see two wheels around the circuit. Motorcycles are planned to take their first tentative steps out onto the gear circuit at the conclusion of this qualifying session. Some just under 20 minutes remaining, halfway through for the qualifying session for the FIA FR World Cup Macau Grand Prix. Chance to look at the cars down in pit lane. That's Kai Darianani's car down in pit lane. And opportunity to look as well at the number 5 car of Enzo Delaney, 16 years old, one of our youngest drivers here on the Macau circuit. First Macau.
There has been an incident noted between James Wharton and Jin Nakamura, and wondering whether or not the reason that Nakamura was in the wall was because of contact with James Wharton. It's going to be looked at after the session, but it's been noted by race control, and the fact that you've got one of the cars involved in that investigation, and look at the tyre marks there ending up in the barriers, it may well be that there was a coming together between Wharton and Nakamura that triggered it.
We said we thought it was an unusual place to just be off. So, yeah, we shall wait and see what happens after this session is concluded. But we've got a fair bit of work to do yet to conclude this session here at Macau. Some of the cars having a bit of a tweak to their setup. Bear in mind, the teams have only now got a bit of data about these cars in the dry around the circuit, so little tweaks, are inevitable, and maybe the opportunity, the moment to do a little tweak is very welcome for the teams.
Just over a minute before we are back live for another go at qualifying 2 here at Macau for the FIA FR World Cup for the Macau Grand Prix itself, with the FR chassis, the Tatius chassis, with these 2-litre Auto Tecnico Motori or Alfa Romeo badged engines, and there Noel is good to go, 3rd currently in the times. So the drivers are ready. They're going to go back on track very shortly, but let's have a look at as best we can what happened for Nakamura and Wharton in a moment, because we are, as they come down towards our bend, have a look in the queue. The 3rd and 4th cars are very, very close, and Nakamura and Wharton together. The camera then follows the cars behind, but the fact that Wharton was so close to Nakamura, who then ends up in the barrier, I wonder whether Nakamura slowed to try to get clear track space, and into the back of him went Wharton. They
were very, very close, but other than that, we've got no real evidence as to exactly what happened. That's down to race control.
But those tyre marks suggest that he was given a shove, if you like, to go straight on. And the stewards are going to have a look. So we'll find out more news when we get to the qualifying race tomorrow. The green flag has flown in the meantime, Alan, so we are back into business.
Yeah, and we're into the second half of qualifying. 3 red flags we've had in this session so far, in the 20 minutes we have so far had for qualifying for the Macau Grand Prix FR World Cup. Qualifying 2 is halfway through. Now we've got to get the cars back up to temperature. You can see new rubber being used by just about everyone in that shot, to be honest, with labels showing on the as yet until this session unused dry weather tyres on the FR cars.
Red flag.
Red flag, what for? Let's have a look and see if we can find out exactly why we immediately have our 4th red flag of this session.
Because they've only a handful of cars have got to Lisboa. Now, unless the race director is not happy with something else around the circuit, but that's an odd one.
That's very peculiar. We've got no indication as yet as to why we are now in another red flag period.
There are some cars that haven't even got out onto the circuit because the red lights have gone on. So there, for example, Théophile Nael's car pushed back to the team.
But as yet, we've got no indication as to exactly why we've got that red flag so quickly.
But there's no messing there, was there? Straight away?
No, straight away, yeah. So it was weird, and I was looking over to the timing screen to see if I had any indication that Oliver Goethe had got in the car and gone back out after the problems with the fire extinguisher. I'm not sure he did he?
No, he hadn't gone out.
He didn't leave, no.
The barrier at pit entry requires repair work. So we thought we were safe, but the barrier at the last corner needs some work. So that's the track with the speedy dry down to soak up liquid, but it would appear that somebody has now spotted that there's a bit of barrier damage that hadn't been attended to.
Yeah, so not necessarily something that happened once the cars were released, but something that was noted just a little bit too late to stop the cars going back out. So that's the reason for the immediate red flag. And with cars having left on completely brand new slick tyres, the opportunity is now given to the team around Oliver Goethe's car to make some small adjustments, I think, and maybe this is a bit of very welcome extra time with the car down in pit lane for that team.
Yeah.
MP Motorsport. Can I mention two wheels again?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
I'm feeling sorry for them because as time ticks away and we've yet to have motorcycles on track here at Macau, the light level is going to start to reduce fairly soon.
They should have been on track 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But that equally will be in the minds of people in race control. And it's all very well letting the FR cars go and go and go and go, but there are other people that have to be taken into account. So now the engine bay needing to be cleaned of any extinguishant that got in the wrong place. It's very, very rare that you have to see this being done during a session.
It's a really messy process, isn't it? The when unfortunately you get a fire extinguisher activated in a car, and makes a very lengthy clean-up process, a very uncomfortable few laps for Oliver Goethe in prospect as well. Kai Darianani's car we just saw coming into pit lane, but yeah, that's going to be a messy car. That's going to require a much more exhaustive clean-up process once this session is complete.
I mean, clearly they want to send him back out again, otherwise they wouldn't be doing the work. And they're mindful that they may need to respond if anybody else goes quicker. But it's an unusual situation to have it during a session, and they're about the only team being thankful for all these red flags, I think, at the minute.
Yeah, it's a very welcome extended period down in pit lane, and the work that's required on the barrier at pit lane entry, we've yet to see what they're doing down there, and they'll be working away, no doubt, to get things back underway as soon as possible. But you're right, David, race control will be mindful that at the end of this session, it was we were due to have the motorcycles coming on circuit for the first time, and if you just put yourself in the minds of the riders that have yet to go on circuit, and the teams as well that prepare the motorcycles, that they need to make the most of an opportunity. They need dry circuit. We have dry circuit. It's an opportunity for them to get out on track.
But it's not as straightforward as last Formula Regional class in the pit lane bikes out, because you've then got to go and put the barriers up. So there'll be some earnest conversations, I think, going on at the minute, as we have 19 more minutes still to go. Right, teams are ready, but what we now need, of course, is an update as to the barrier repairs. And looking out of the window, the track staff will be attending to that as swiftly as.
James Wharton's car, that, and as they patiently wait down in pit lane, there is such a lot of education that goes on for young drivers over the course of this weekend. One of them is patience, and another one is the focus on the job in hand. So with 20 minutes, 19 minutes to be precise, remaining. We only got a few seconds into that restart. This is the fourth red flag that we've had, and not the fourth actual red flag. This is just really a continuation of red flag number 3, when maybe the cars were sent back out on circuit when they were still unaware of the repair that needed to be done to the barrier on pit lane entry. But either way, It means we are into the second half of this qualifying session, and you begin to wonder if this is going to run to the full time of 40 minutes, the scheduled time for qualifying 2. Essentially the only meaningful qualifying session for the FR cars. The provisional pole time that we have at the moment, a 2:19.7, and Oliver Goethe was top of the times yesterday with a 2:32 in the wet conditions at the end of yesterday afternoon. They were used to it as well. There were plenty of red flags yesterday, 5 in total in qualifying 1. We're now into qualifying 2 with Oliver Goethe with an advantage of 0.3 of a second, 0.3 of a second quicker than Ugo Ugochukwu, the American driver, with a time of 2:20.070. Noel Leon in 3rd place, Freddie Slater in 4th position. The expectant crowd, they have to learn patience as well. They absolutely love it when cars are out on circuit, and they're very, very used to having to wait for those cars to re-emerge on track and make the most of seeing themselves on the big screen. Big wave, happy, smiling faces. And the good news is that we haven't got the ponchos that we've seen distributed eagerly here at Macau for the last 2 days. They have been very, very welcome, the ponchos that are handed out. Just having a look down there at drivers getting themselves into that zone to maintain the concentration that they need to complete this qualifying session. So having a look down at the 31 car of Freddie Slater, currently in 4th position.
With still 19 minutes, the other side of a green flag, all being well. So the dry circuit remains. The lights just starting to fade a touch. The drivers eager to get back out there as soon as they can, and we await news as to a restart time. And for the moment, silence reigns and we all got wet. No news as yet, because only really after some of the work has been done can race control get a proper idea of where we're up to. Kai Daryanani's had a pretty tough weekend as well, the prolific Formula 4 racer. He's been in the wars rather, and there you can look at Matteo De Paolo's car, the Italian driver, ready to go back out, and a number of drivers here. I suppose about the only person that might be pleased, other than Goethe, who is quickest and has been saved a bit by the stoppages, is Dino Beganovic, because the remaining time is being eroded by outlap, stop, outlap, stop, outlap, stop, and people aren't yet being able to do a flying lap.
And Alex Dunne as well. Dino Beganovic now in 12th position, and it didn't take long, did it, for someone to get down sub 2:20 around the circuit. Oliver Goethe with a 2:19.7 as the teams are all finding things for themselves to do down in pit lane at the moment, with no real indication as to when we're going to get this session back underway. The inevitable thing to say, but the clock continues to count down, not for the remainder of the qualifying session. That is halted at 19 minutes and 8 seconds remaining, but to the immovable feast, if you like, which is at 6 o'clock when the roads open up at Macau once again. So we, at 6 o'clock, have the normal roads of Macau, two-way traffic, buses, vans, mopeds, taxis. Although that said, I waited a long time for a taxi. You wouldn't believe there were any taxis running around Macau last night.
Really?
Very busy, very long wait. And in the end, I decided to take an umbrella and walk.
Right, okay. But that way you can see more of Macau.
And I did, I quite enjoyed it.
There you go, you see?
Yeah.
All positive, all positive. Well, the fans are being ever so patient, waiting for things to get back underway. In fairness, it doesn't look like it's the barrier quite so much as all that speedy dry soaking up the liquid that was being attended to. The teams being warned to tell their drivers of a slippery track at the last corner. And the fact that that is now a message does suggest we're getting a little bit closer to the resumption of the session. But you're right, we're getting closer to 6 o'clock, therefore we're running out of motorbike time. And you've got to feel for them. They've come all this long way and have yet to even take to the circuit. And they have to run tomorrow.
They have to run tomorrow. Yeah, exactly.
They can't be held over until Sunday.
It reminds me of a situation we had at Rockingham Motor Speedway in the UK many years ago when the Champ cars came over, the American IndyCar cars came over to race on the UK's only large oval, and it was wet. The circuit was wet, and dryers were deployed, basically a pickup truck with a jet engine on the back of it, drying the circuit hour after hour through the night. We got through so much aviation fuel. We didn't race on Friday. We didn't race on, didn't run on Friday. We didn't run on Saturday, and this was because the track was new. It had what was known as weepers, where water was coming up from underneath the tarmac and making the circuit wet. And when we finally got to a condition, I remember Michael Andretti going around with the officials, and finally he said, no, I think we're good to go. So they got this window in the middle of Sunday where they did practice, qualifying and race, one after another. Yeah. Everything condensed into that short period of time, which I'm beginning to think, are we going to see that for the motorcycles tomorrow?
Well, we are about 3 minutes away from getting things back underway here. So there's a bit more optimism of cars going out on circuit, but I do wonder whether it's going to be allowed to run its full 19 minutes, or whether in the interests of harmony with the two-wheel community, somebody says, right, we're going to give you 15 minutes and that's it, behave, as an example. But under the regulations, of course, I'm not entirely sure you are allowed to shorten it unless it's yet another stoppage. I
was going to say, is there a limit to the number of stoppages that are permissible?
I think that's discretionary, but if we had 5 in free practice, five in qualifying, but ultimately it's down to the race director, Rui Marquez, to make that call. But yeah, I mean, yesterday they were given 5 opportunities, and today on a dry circuit, well, I suppose you want to give them as many opportunities as you can. 40 minutes on paper seems like a really good amount of track time.
We've had 4 so far, but only 3 essentially, because that restart was not really a restart, was it? So, yeah, 71st Macau Grand Prix here for 2024 is about to get back underway with qualifying for the Macau Grand Prix and the FIA FR World Cup, the first time we've had these cars competing. And look at Oliver Goethe's car. You wouldn't have known that a couple of moments ago it was covered in extinguisher. That's the result of the hard work of the course workers that have tended to that slippery surface down there on the final turn.
It's a lot of liquid that needed a lot of soaking.
Lots of liquid.
Yeah. So fuel perhaps as well as any water or coolant that came onto the track. But anyway, it's all been dealt with. Was any of that extinguisher,
might that have gone off on Goethe's car coming into the pit lane?
It was the other side of the pit wall, wasn't it?
Right, yeah.
It was the last corner, so I think that's okay.
Yeah.
No, I think Goethe's extinguisher either was set off or went off as he got to the team.
As he got to, into the berth in front of the garages here in pit lane. Well, we're very soon about to get things back underway, and with those barrier repairs. What time did we get that red flag? It was just before 25 to 5. Yeah. It's now coming up to 10 minutes to 5 local time. If you're waking up around the world and tuning in, we are just over halfway through qualifying for the Macau Grand Prix. 40-minute session, 19 minutes remain, and we are 4 red flags already in this qualifying session.
And 19 minutes on the clock, and another session to go before the end of the day, which is 6 o'clock. But you can imagine some pretty earnest conversations going on now between the motorbike community and race control, saying, please don't forget about us. So a thumbs up at the end of the pit lane. The 1 minute board is being prepared, but we're not there yet by the look of it, because although it's 16:49 estimated, we are almost there, and we haven't had a confirmed restart time. So 16:49 is about to tick over here at the circuit, and it's 1 more minute before we are expecting to go. Even that's an estimated start time, not a confirmed. So I'm not sure that there's anybody else still working on the circuit, but we're not yet able to confirm that we're going to go live at the end of the next minute. But the team's being notified at least that it's getting closer to kick-off, so they are ready to get the engines fired up again and to dispatch the drivers down the pit lane. From Mitch Evans' stable, Kai Darianani's car there, number 88. You can see the long drive down the pit lane. You can see all the fans opposite in the grandstand. And there is pit out with the circuit on the bottom left as you look, the pit lane on the right, and 16:51, so another minute and 5 seconds, and then we'll get a green light. Now, the bike session was due to last for an hour, but it's going to be much less than that, I would fear. 1 minute board shown. And we are in business then. Green light will go on very shortly. And out they will go once more. Fingers crossed we can get through to the end without further mayhem. So Oliver Goethe remains the fastest by 0.335 of a second from Ugo Ugochukwu, and Noel Leon third in the times at the moment. So the clock into the last 10 seconds. The engineers there saying to the drivers, hold. They're all watching the lights. And as soon as they drop their arm, then that's the indication that the driver can accelerate away. Green flag shown at the end of the pit lane.
Session back underway for qualifying for the Macau Grand Prix and FIA FR World Cup. Qualifying 2. Essentially, we had qualifying 1 at the end of yesterday afternoon. It was wet. The times were eclipsed within the first lap of this session and eclipsed by some 10 seconds. We are down to a 2:19.735 for our provisional pole time for Oliver Goethe. And now everybody is going to try and get some heat into those tyres as quickly as they possibly can. They know how important these laps are early on when the cars are released on circuit, and weaving the cars from side to side is a bit of a treat.
We've had contact, because if you have a look, one of the blue cars, the KCMG car, I think, the nose cone's disappeared. I think he's gone into the back of one of the MP Motorsport cars. There, look, you can see the nose has gone. It's now Leon's car. But there was one of the slow 2 orange cars, either Rinicella or Colnaghi, that was up against the barrier coming from pit exit, getting out of the way. I think Leon's gone into the back of whichever of either Rinicella or Colnaghi it was.
They went out as a swarm. They instantly started weaving the cars from side to side to get heat into the tyres, and maybe all just a little bit too boisterous coming out onto the circuit to get this session back underway. And the only good news about that is a front nose cone is a very quick thing to replace down in pit lane. They can do that very, very quickly. However, with the rest of the field out on the circuit, putting in meaningful laps after the conclusion of this lap, it's going to be rather costly. So we've got that unfortunate situation, having got the cars out onto the circuit and losing the nose cone. That car is going to need to pit.
It is indeed, because the aero will be all wrong, and whether it was Colnaghi or Rinicella, we'll wait and see, but I think that will have to come in as well, just to make sure that the rear of it is okay. It's Noel Leon's car that's lost the nose, as we said. There's the sister car, number 8, going through, which is Murray Boyer. But honestly, it never rains, but it pours, so to speak, does it? Because if it's not an incident on track, it's leaving the pit lane to get onto the circuit. But just one driver perhaps a bit overzealous to get going, and bang, finds a slower car ahead.
There is always drama at Macau, and you don't necessarily know where that drama is going to come from.
Well, it's also something that no doubt the stewards will want to have a look at as to where the contact took place, because if it was in the pit lane, that's a real no-no. Oliver Goethe, in the meantime, has gone through now, so we've lost about half an hour with that, for him, stoppage, because of course he was in the pits through the barrier and track maintenance red flag, so he's been off track for quite a long time. There is Ugo Ugochukwu, who goes through. So they've been in the pits for about 15 to 16 minutes, but we're back running now at least.
Right, let's see what happens. We've got just under 16 minutes of this session remaining, and they are on to qualifying laps now. So tyres up to temperature, dry track. Here we go.
Noel into the pits to have a new nose cone fitted, and now we'll start to see sector times being offered up, and Ugochukwu quicker than Goethe in the first sector, even though it's not a personal best.
Nose cone can be replaced in a matter of seconds down in pit lane. They'll have them in stock, ready to go, bolted on and sent back out. And bear in mind that Noel will have been able to get a little bit of heat into the tyres on that lap, albeit not without the aerodynamic advantage of the front nose cone and wing. But he will be ready to go once he's completed the out lap from this pit stop. There we go. Up in the air it goes. Out comes the
old one,
the old one. Yep. The new one already in place.
And he'll be ready to go very shortly and get back out and see what time can be offered up. Third in the times is Noel, who raced here last year, so he knows the circuit, as does Ugochukwu ahead of him, as does Goethe. They were all in the F3 race last year. Freddie Slater, fourth, was in the F4 race. And here, Ugo Ugochukwu has done a personal best sector 2. There are 5 sectors to the lap, just to make the point again. And Ugochukwu, therefore, means business. Others behind are also going green in sectors with 14.5 minutes. And the car that was hit in the back was Mattia Colnaghi, because he's now come into the pit lane as well.
So Ugo, one of the drivers in the field with experience of Macau, threads his way down from the Melco hairpin up to the conclusion of this lap. Sector 4 has gone purple for Ugo Ugochukwu, currently in second place for the number 4 car, about to complete the lap. What can Ugo do at the end of this lap? The first time of asking since the 4th of the red flags. Across the line goes Goethe. His already best lap, a 2:19.735. That lap was a 2:23. Ugo about to complete the lap now. And what's it going to be for the American driver? It goes top, a 2:19.610 for Ugo Ugochukwu.
And Mari Boya goes third, the Spanish driver, so you've got to be in the 19s now. Cooper Webster is up to 5th on a 2:20.252. And yeah, Ugo Ugochukwu, even though he lost time, it's a slow first sector, and he was a bit down in the second, in the third as well. The rest of that was really good, enough to put him at the top, and then another one in the wall. Yet more drama, yet more red flags to be shown. 13 minutes on the clock, and another one bites the dust. That is coming out of Fisherman's towards the final corner, and as you can see, way out wide has gone, whichever car that is, into the barriers. Yet another red flag. And the crane hovers, ready to hoik the car out of the way. And is that Rikuto Kobayashi? It is. Rikuto Kobayashi for Tom's Formula is the one that's charged the barriers. And let's see how long it takes to move the car this time around. Kobayashi is okay, jumped clear. And I know that the drivers are all pushing, and I know that they're eager to do well and they want a good grid position, but
5 red flags now in this qualifying session for the Macau Grand Prix in 2024, the 71st running of the Macau Grand Prix, and this has been a testing qualifying session for the teams, for the drivers, the spectators. Enjoy every minute of it because they know what's going to happen. Eventually, they will get racing cars back on circuit, going very quickly indeed, which is what Ugo Ugochukwu just did. Made it count early on, didn't he? Very, very impressive. That 2:19.610, and that's where the experience comes in. Keeping focus, keeping ready to get back out on circuit, and as soon as you're asked to do it, bang, you put in the lap.
Right, let's try and work out what Kobayashi did wrong then. So down through Black Sands and just too fast. Never made the corner. Way too wide. You can see the tyre marks. And he's just completely misjudged that. Through on the wrong wide line. Bounces off the barriers, or the conveyor belting that covers the tyre barrier, then towards the concrete. And so it's another car that needs to be retrieved, and everybody else will come down the pit lane.
Oliver Goethe passes past the incident zone and onwards into pit lane. Ugo Ugochukwu can be very, very pleased with piecing that lap together.
And although Dino Beganovic's participation has not been there for a good half an hour or so, he's still 14th in the times because we're just not getting into a rhythm. You know, I think everybody did do, with the exception of Kobayashi, obviously, everybody did do at least one lap there. But it's back to the pit lane, it's another out lap. Red flags breed red flags, don't they, it would appear today. Not just in this session, but it's been a whole day of red flags and stoppages and delays and drama. And Oliver Goethe comes back to the pits, back to the team, the MP Motorsport team. So let everybody out again. 3 minutes, let's say, for an out lap. You've got 10 minutes. And each time you have one of these stoppages, it has the effect of making the next part of the session even more pressured, because everyone has got to go and get a time in less time available to them. And it just has that trigger effect of making people go off again.
So what's the order? Ugo Ugochukwu is top, Oliver Goethe is second, Mary Boyer is third, Noel Leon is fourth, Cooper Webster is fifth, and Freddie Slater is sixth. We have 13.5 minutes, just under, of this session yet to run, and we are in the fifth red flag period as the car is lifted very swiftly out of the way. That's the car that currently sits on pole position. Ugo Ugochukwu, the American driver, part of the McLaren Driver Development Programme, sits for the moment on provisional pole position. 3 cars in the 219s. One is Ugo Ugochukwu. 10th of a second behind is number 1 Oliver Goethe, having had a very unusual pit stop during one of the red flag periods where the fire extinguisher had deployed and needed cleaning up, not just Oliver himself, but also the interior and exterior of the car. And Mary Boyer, car number 8, is currently lying in 3rd place. So, qualifying continues for the 71st Macau Grand Prix, FIA FR World Cup. Red flag period number 5.
One of the things you could argue that has really helped Goethe and Ugochukwu, and I know ability comes into this, and I know that the team comes into this as well, but because they're always released first, because it's team by team numerically down the pit lane, they're always out, they're always kind of at the front of the queue. Any drama behind them, they're spared that.
Yes.
So they're always slightly ahead of the red flag, if you
they
see what
get
I mean.
the gift of a clear lap.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rather than it kicking off. If you're sort of at the top end of the pit lane where PHM is, it's a lot more difficult. Out of the way then is Kobayashi's car.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Given a push, I think, rather than needing to be lifted. And the incident at pit exit, we talked about Noel Leon getting into the back of Kolnagi. Well, it's Kolnagi and Ugochukwu and Deligny and Leon and Boyer. They all concertinaed. So it's going to be looked at. Anyway, we are awaiting news as to the restart, which can't be that far away, he says optimistically. If only because the road is now clear. There is no Leon. Session restart, minute and 5 seconds.
So, local time, 4 minutes past 5. We'll get this session back underway. That's less than 1 minute to go. Fair play to them, you know. They've had to keep focus throughout this. It is frustrating. You need patience. And more than anything, you need to keep absolutely in the zone.
Yeah.
Keep that concentration. Don't let it waver. Don't get involved in conversations that take your concentration away from the job in hand. Because, okay, they had it yesterday. They've got it again today. This is during qualifying. They will no doubt have it over the course of racing at some stage this weekend as well.
Yeah, one of the things they have in the race, and we saw it last year, is a virtual safety car. So you can neutralise the race for, you know, a corner or two or a lap or two without needing a safety car necessarily or without needing a stoppage. But it's a challenging circuit, of course, on which to race. It's a challenging circuit to run from race control because there are so many possible incidents that can happen, as we've seen over the course of the day. And the green flag is shown once more. So we're in business, and it's Goethe who is the first one out of the pit lane. Now let's have a look while we have a clean pit exit this time. See if we can unravel what happened last time. So have a look in the background. So Kolnagi is slow coming out. And look in the second group of cars. So Kolnagi slows and everybody else is accelerating. And all of a sudden, Bosch into the back. And some try and swerve. And Kolnagi was so slow, others had to take evasive action. So some are being looked at for going over the line, but you can see that there was already the damage to Noel's car because he, as he tried to swerve, caught the back of Kolnagi. Don't be a hero on the inside, because that's just a bit overly brave on an outlap, isn't it? It worked, but only because Noel gave racing room.
Yeah, that was, yeah, it's a bit eager. And I think one of the things that we are seeing is that there are quite a few drivers over the course of the 2 days so far that have not experienced Macau before, and therefore this eager nature of these outlaps to get things on, to get on with things, a little patience required, I think.
Well, Ugo Ugochukwu, as you were saying earlier, has done the right thing by maintaining focus, and Noel doing the right thing that way, letting the traffic go, not defending, not getting himself involved in a possible incident.
Bit of experience there. Yeah,
car goes through. All right, you want to be in a hurry, I'll let you go, and I'll try and work out my clear track space in a different way. And 11.5 minutes on the clock. I think once we're into the final 10, this is probably the last chance for them. Another stoppage, and that would probably nail the hat onto this session.
I think it probably would.
But hopefully we won't get to that point. We want to see one or two more times shuffled around, don't we? And
we saw them briefly get into a bit of a groove, didn't we, for a little while. And it was wonderful to watch. These cars are superb around the gear circuit. It would be lovely to watch them being able to do what they do. So we have 11 minutes more to enjoy them doing what they do, and also the huge crowd that we have here around the Macau circuit. They can enjoy the cars doing what they do as well, and fingers crossed they get the chance to enjoy the bikes doing what they do as well, which will come at the end of this.
So there, Ugo Ugochukwu up towards the line. Oliver Goethe again has sprinted away. Behind him you've got his teammate from MP Motorsport, Valerio Rinicella. Beganovic, by the way, who was the quickest when he had his accident, is now down to 14, so bit by bit he slips. And the final quarter of the session looms, doesn't it, as Goethe comes now down towards Lisboa. The car quivering under braking, little squeal of tyres, but he gets the car turned in up the curve, admittedly. And Goethe then now powers his way uphill. Not an improvement in that first sector.
In fact, no one has in the first couple of cars that have been through. And taking a little while to build up to it, which is perhaps a good thing. Maybe that's what we need to see.
Up the escape road is Enzo Deligny, so now we need to hope that he can turn that car around. Enzo Deligny's down at Lisboa, but if you can't get the car turned around, it can't stay there because it's a hazard for anybody else that goes up the escape road.
We can but hope, and yeah, getting these sound effects trackside, the tyres squealing and working as you thread your way up through the eye of a needle.
And Goethe has now picked up his skirt, so to speak, in the second sector because he's gone to do a personal best. This is the drama at Lisboa. Enzo Deligny then arrives a little bit late on the brakes and thinks, now I'm not going to make the corner, am I?
Good decision.
Goes up the escape road.
Really good decision there to take evasive action and to get back on circuit. We think the car has got back on circuit, back with Oliver Goethe, currently in second place. He's been the erstwhile pole position car last night, overnight, carrying through into day two in the wet conditions, and for the majority of this session as well. He's not been without his dramas, the fire extinguisher.
Oh, no. Another one in the wall, Alan. Two in the wall.
Another two in the wall, I'm afraid.
And their teammates, aren't they? It's Canato Lee, I think, who's been caught by Evan Giltaire. And it's going to be another track blockage. It's another red flag with 8 3/4 minutes on the clock. And nobody had got onto a flying lap. Sorry, they'd got onto a flying lap. Nobody had had a chance to complete a flying lap. And another block circuit.
We were getting astonishingly close to completing a lap for Ugo Ugochukwu and Oliver Goethe, but now we've got another car park and some more damage. The teams are going to be busy tonight. When do they race tomorrow for their qualification race? 3:30 is the scheduled start time for the qualifying race. Over 10 laps here at Macau. And as drivers climb out of their cars, their stricken cars, the marshals go into action once again.
8 3/4 minutes to go. If we work on the assumption that an out lap is round about 3 minutes, you're looking at 5 minutes of competitive motoring, which hopefully would be 2, maybe 3 flying laps. But we've not had any suggestion that that is going to be the end of the session. There is still time available. The biggest limiter here is what you do about the bikes. But as far as the FR is concerned, we've still got 8 minutes and 47 seconds to go.
6 red flags during this qualifying session, with 8 minutes and 47 seconds remaining on the clock. Local time, 5:10. At 6 o'clock, we get the roads back open here at Macau. The gear circuit of Macau becomes the regular roads of Macau. Two-way traffic, buses, vans, mopeds, cars, all sorts of traffic for the 12 hours between 6 and 6. And as you rightly said, David, before we can get bikes on the circuit, you also need to get the extra cushioning which goes around certain parts of the circuit in place as well. They could do that very quickly, but it's a slightly longer turnaround between bikes and car racing as we would have between 2 sessions for cars.
I am interested in the fact that the scrutineers at pit in are moving all their apparatus away. So that would suggest they're not going to stop cars coming into the pit lane because the session is over. Discuss. But anyway, some are heading to the pits, some are in the pits, and they're Renato Lee already stationary and trying to avoid him. That was a big, big impact for Evan Giltaire, who suddenly comes around the corner, finds a parked car, finds his teammate, and did his best to swerve in avoidance, but hooked his rear wheel around the back. Oh, no, it's not Renato Lee, forgive me. It is James Wharton, the Australian in the broken car. James Wharton, number 16. So it was Wharton that triggered it, not Lee, apologies. But James Wharton, another quick driver, runner-up in the Formula Regional European Championship, and 9th in the times. So he was the trigger for that.
You are looking at Ugo Ugochukwu down in pit lane. The team looking at the back of the car and potentially making a few little adjustments that they can do. This is not only a qualifying session, it's also the first run that they've had around the circuit through yesterday and today in dry conditions. So the first time they've had to go around the circuits on dry tyres, but it's more than a couple of tweaks to Ugo Ugochukwu's car. They are effecting repairs.
Yeah. Did he rub up against a barrier somewhere, maybe? Or did he suffer a bit of damage in that previous pit exit situation? But you're right, that's some damage somehow. So the order remains: Ugochukwu from Goethe, Boyer from Leon, Webster from Slater, Nael, Giltaire, Wharton, and Deligny, the top 10. Cars all back in the pit lane. 8 3/4 minutes to go. I know the session started late, but it does seem to have taken an awful long time. And we aren't quite at the end of it yet.
Still Friday.
True. But it does illustrate again just how, and I know you made the point earlier, Macau bites. James Wharton, good driver, second in the European Championship for FR chassis this year, and yet, you know, there's one of the stars being caught out. And when the car is on the road, it gets collected by the sister car. That's going to go down really badly, isn't it, with ART Grand Prix? One hits teammate. The same situation that Prama's ended up with, in a sense. 2 cars in 1 accident.
So terribly, terribly unlucky, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to feel so very much for the team as we are in our 6th period of red flag stoppage during this qualifying session. Dry tyres, that's a nice sight, isn't it? As we look at Enzo Deligny's car, talking to the team, staying focused, staying in that little window of concentration to, at any moment, be called into action once again. But, this is, you know, we've seen multiple sessions over the years here at Macau where we have multiple red flags, multiple stoppages, but this has got to be up there with them, hasn't it? 6 over the course of just over half an hour so far.
And the biggest frustration is that it's never a long enough stretch between them for people to really get into a handful of drivers might get a lap, 1 or 2 might get 2, but it's so bitty.
Yeah.
And that's another reason that, in a way, drivers are having the crashes, because they're not being able to get the mileage in to learn the track. So when they are required to push, they don't really know where they can and can't. There's almost an answer now, an argument, if you like, to propose that you have 1 session behind a safety car so that people just drive around and look at the circuit and know what it's all about, and then you go. Let's have a look as James Wharton's car is taken away. And we were looking a little moment ago at Ugo Ugochukwu's car, and with a little bit of damage on that left rear corner, let's try and work out what he did. So this is Ugochukwu into Lisboa. So have a look further back in the queue. He's about 3rd or 4th one through. So that's Théophile Nael. He goes through the right-hander. He's okay. Next one's okay. And then Ugochukwu is way out wide already and turns the car around. In fact, that's not Ugochukwu. No. That is 25, isn't it? Which is Rashid Al-Daheri. So, no, it's not Ugochukwu that we found. It's Al-Daheri, and he had his moment up the escape road at Lisboa. So Ugochukwu's damage remains
still a mystery.
Still to be, investigated.
So we'll see if we can find out. Session will restart at 17 minutes past 5. That's just a minute away, local time, 16 minutes past 5. And we will get this session back underway. You said it after 5 red flags. I wonder if they'll get another chance. We say it after 6 red flags now. I wonder if they'll get another chance after this. 8 minutes and 47 seconds of this session remains.
I suppose they only park the bikes for a while because they've been parked for 2 days.
I was going to say, they are parked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The only tipping point from purely an FR point of view is if there isn't time enough to do an out lap and a flying lap, then there's no point.
Yep, agree 100%.
And I would say that's about 4.5 minutes.
And I do feel so sorry for the bikes. We have the top riders in the world here, road racers in the world, are standing by, ready to go. They have been for the last 48 hours ready to go here at Macau. And that is Ugo Ugochukwu after repairs to the back of the car, and the green flag is waved. Here we go, qualifying back underway for the 71st Macau Grand Prix.
What's this, take 6?
Yes.
Right. So,
actually, no, we've had 6 red flags. Take 7.
Take 7, okay. So, we are in business. Clock ticks down, as you can see. And the drivers weave around to get the warmth back into the tyres, get the temperatures back up, get the pressures back up as they come now down towards Mandarin. And Murray Boyer only now from 3rd fastest going out. Another one that's lagging back is Freddie Slater, who is 6th in the times and waiting to go. And again, do you go with the traffic and try and get to the head of the queue, or do you drive around on your own and try not to get caught up in any dramas? Well, Slater's going to go on his own, as you can see how busy it is here at San Francisco. 8 minutes to go now.
We say so often that anything can happen at Macau. You can't predict. When you get up in the morning, you look forward to a day, be it qualifying, be it practice, be it racing at Macau, you just don't know how the day will unfold. One thing you do know, it will give you quite a bit of drama, and we have had a drama aplenty during this qualifying session for the Macau Grand Prix in its 71st running.
Freddie Slater on his way down the pit lane. Oliver Goethe again, you see, by being one of the first out, able to get a clear run, able to push earlier, and he knows the circuit. He may not know this style of single-seater, but he does know the track from last year. So Oliver Goethe able to push on. He would like to get his pole position back, but of course he also knows that on the run towards Lisboa in the qualifying race tomorrow, even if he is starting from 2nd, he can get into the slipstream of Ugochukwu and make a move by getting a tow if required.
There is Ugo Ugochukwu threading his way through the twisty parts of the circuit. That's Donna Maria, the long left-hander, and in sight as you exit Donna Maria is the Melco hairpin. Only now do you get a view of the circuit running down as the speed continues to gather through Black Sands up towards Fisherman's and Arbenne. The final couple of turns on the gear circuit here at Macau. That's the number 7 car of Noel Leon. Heading up towards the start-finish line. 6 minutes and 15 seconds remain. Oliver Goethe goes on to a flying lap, currently second. Oliver Goethe's time at 2:19.7 for the number 1 car. And with clear track in front, what can Oliver Goethe do this time? These wonderful, fast-flowing corners, wide track on the run down towards Lisboa through Mandarin. And Lisboa, the right-hander, into the braking zone, the little bump, little correction on the run towards San Francisco. And now on the climbing section of the circuit on the 6.1 kilometers around the streets of Macau. This Oliver Goethe, target time 2:19.6, set by Ugo Ugochukwu.
No improvement in sector 1, but there was an improvement in sector 2, a little bit like the last lap that was just before the red flag. So Goethe sort of building up to it, isn't he? Sector by sector by sector. And Ugochukwu remaining the fastest, and he's done an absolute best, Ugo Ugochukwu, in sector 2. So the drivers are being able to respond. The tyres that haven't really been overused, have they? Have still got plenty of life in them. Goethe drops down the hill here, and he's got the road to himself, and he's looking pretty strong. And he's done an absolute best in sector 3. So Goethe, with the back just snaking out of line ever so slightly at police, comes up to Moorish, goes right. That was where Wharton had the most recent session stopper. But he survives it. Behind him on the road is Valerio Rinicella, and now around Donna Maria comes a hard-charging Oliver Goethe, accelerating his way now down towards the Melco hairpin, and with only 4.5 more minutes on the clock, he will get certainly 1 more lap, maybe even 2. Rinicella behind, and Noel Leon is the dark horse on this lap, because Noel Leon, the Mexican, has done 2 personal bests and an absolute, so we're in for a real shuffle of the order, I think, now, as Goethe comes down through Fisherman's, and again, you can hear the tyre squeal. He is a very energetic driver, is Goethe, no question about it. Winner in F3, won the support race of the British Grand Prix last year. 2 absolute bests now for Noel Leon. I think Goethe's going to go quicker, but Leon is going to scoop everything, barring a mistake at the last sector. So Goethe goes through, quickest, 2:19.121. Ignore, in a sense, Rinicella, because he's not been as quick. Then coming up towards the timing line is going to be Noel Leon. Up to third goes Enzo Deligny. Ugochukwu goes back to the top on a 2:19.1, and Noel Leon goes only third. He lost out in the last sector. So Ugochukwu gets his pole position back. Goethe second, Leon third, and then it's Deligny, Boyer, and Cooper Webster sixth, and he's still in the pit lane. He's not gone out.
Ugo Ugochukwu on provisional pole. 3 minutes and 20 seconds remain. 2:19.1 for Ugo Ugochukwu, and just a fraction of a second behind is Oliver Goethe. This bodes well for the rest of the weekend. There is nothing between them. Ugo Ugochukwu, Oliver Goethe. Now, Noel Leon's lap was a surprise.
Yeah.
2 personal and 2 private.
Red flag. Red flag again with 3 minutes, and that's just about enough for an outlap.
Yeah.
So I wonder, and there's the reason. It's coming down towards the start and finish line, car in the wall, and that
Jet Bowling
is Jet Bowling, who crashed yesterday. Session will not be resumed.
Yep.
Enough, as they say, is enough. So Ugo Ugochukwu did it perfectly to take pole position by 14 thousandths of a second. How about that?
Impressive stuff, and not least because the concentration to keep yourself focused for that amount of time and that amount of distractions, including a repair to the car during the last time down in pit lane for Ugo Ugochukwu. Quite right that they're celebrating down in the garage, because that was very, very well earned indeed.
Yeah. No question about it, and it's a shame yet again that we haven't had a proper session. Watching the times betrayed it. It's been luck of the draw, really. You get a flying lap in relative to the red flag, but Ugo Ugochukwu using the experience gleaned last year to good effect in going to the top of the times when it mattered. And of course, Noel Leon missed out by 0.191 of a second and doesn't get another opportunity. Missed out with 1 bad sector at the end of a really good lap, but that was it. So you can't really afford to build up. We saw that in the GT session, a very disappointed Eduardo Mortara, who'd been building up to a good lap at the end, and then a red flag scuppered that for him. But Ugo Ugochukwu has done a mighty job. So Oliver Goethe second and Noel Leon third. I still think that that grid order and another one in strife there, getting it all wrong on the run to the pit lane. I still think you can shuffle that again on the run to Lisboa with a toe on the first lap. So, you know, how much you can read into that qualifying session, we'll get back to you.
And if I may offer one final thought, quite a few of the drivers are being investigated after the session for an incident that took place out on circuit. So we have to say, although we're calling it here at the end of that session, they remain provisional until we get here in the morning.
And an extra compulsory driver's briefing has just been called for 6 o'clock. And we touched on it during the session about driving standards, and I think that's probably the message to get through, isn't it? What are you doing, chaps? 7 red flags. 7? 7.
7.
Is 7 too many, really? And this was what happened to Jet Bowling. Too much speed, lost the back of the car, bang. Very similar to his accident yesterday over at Moorish. So that was the drama sustained for Jet Bowling. The car bounces its way down the Armco, and he's okay. The car's going to need retrieval, and then hopefully, as soon as possible, the circuit can be made ready for motorbikes, if there is time. There's not enough time for them to run today. So we understand that we are going to have activity for the bikes tomorrow and provisionally Sunday, but we await official confirmation. But because of the amount of light, never mind the amount of time, it looks as though the bikers have had another day off, sadly.
What a difficult situation for them.
And for the organisers, in fairness, because you know you're trying to juggle the weather you can't control. You can't control what drivers are going to do in a situation like this. And you're also mindful of the needs of what you have to accommodate for the two-wheel community as well. So keep an eye to the Macau Grand Prix website, and the confirmation will come from there. As there is your pole position driver then, provisionally, for the qualifying race for the Macau Grand Prix, the FR World Cup, and that is Ugo Ugochukwu, who uncoils himself from the car, the very, very tall American driver with the understated silver helmet, a very happy man indeed. So Ugochukwu by 14 thousandths of a second, taking pole position. And a very happy team. Big smiles all round as the drivers then go talk to their respective teams, reflect on a very, very bitty session. 2 minutes 19.107, 14 thousandths quicker than anybody else for pole position.
A very happy Ugo Ugochukwu down in pit lane, and an extremely happy team. It is quite a release after a session like that for not just the drivers, not just the teams, but everybody involved to get to the end of the session and then have something to celebrate. And that's what Ugo Ugochukwu does down in pit lane. Now, the indication number 1 down by the right-hand corner of the fronts of the car for Ugo Ugochukwu. And exactly like he was in F4 just a few years ago, takes everything in his stride. Confirmation then that Ugo Ugochukwu starts provisionally on pole position tomorrow from Oliver Goethe, Noel Leon and Enzo Delaney on the second row of the grid, Mary Boyer and Cooper Webster on row 3, with Freddie Slater and Théophile Nael on the next row of the grid. Further down, James Wharton and Rashid Daheri on the next row of the grid, and Nakamura and Kalagny on the next row. Beganovic ended up in 15th place after watching the majority of that session, and starting at the back of the grid, 2 British drivers, Darianani and Kanato Lee, complete the 27 finishers from qualifying for the Grand Prix on Sunday, the Grand Prix of Macau. And these were the highlights of a very dramatic qualifying.